Savage. So we have so much to talk about today, don't we? Before the communist holiday of Labor Day weekend. Many of us don't know Labor Day, of course, which I will talk about in another broadcast, is in fact a socialist communist holiday, but I don't want to burst your barbecue bubble with any facts of reality. Again, we're going to go live right now with you. And I want to begin by mentioning to you that we have an open chat line on YouTube and on X, where the show should be live. I want to play something for you that I did years ago, uh, and I'm going to do it in a way that you can actually hear it. It's going to give me a second to set up the mic properly, and here we go. I'm going to hit the go button, and here we go. Okay. Well, guess what? It ain't going. I don't know why. I know why. Now I got it. It takes me a second to get these things working. Here we. Superman defeated by every man. Oh, that's Mike. Michael, hold it. Michael, wait. Stop. Michael, stop. That's the old Michael talking to the new Michael. Okay. You know I like to play with things. So here we go again. Hang on. This is only about a minute long, and then I'll do it in my own way today. I've lived through some historic times in my life. You won't believe this. And here they are. Look what I have seen in my lifetime. I want to show you how long I've been around this planet so you're going to get a feeling of what I've seen in my lifetime. 1. Superman defeated by every man in World War II. 2. The first atomic bomb used in warfare. The establishment of the State of Israel. The popularization of television. This is all in my lifetime. The popularization of air conditioning. The popularization of air travel. The popularization of the personal computer. The invention of the internet. The assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. I've seen the first man walk on the moon. I've seen the mainstreaming of homosexuality. I've seen the complete integration of blacks and whites. I've seen the development of mass welfare for unproductive citizens. I've seen the destruction of America's judicial system by corrupt lawyers. I've seen the meltdown of America's borders. I've seen the self-genocide of America's European-American majority through a mass abortion and mass tolerance of diverse sexualities. I've seen the acceptance of narcotics. I've seen the debasement of religion. I've seen the takeover of corporations by gamblers and con men. I've seen the elimination of grades in many schools. I've seen the introduction of racial quota systems. I've seen the impeachment of a president. What will I see in the future? Well, that's for you to decide, not me. Okay, so I did that a number of years ago. The reason I'm playing it for you is because we're on the verge of something dramatic in America. According to all polls, Donald Trump is ahead of the Communist Party USA, or is it CCP? We don't know, with their stooges, Harris and Waltz, who are clearly plants of the Communist Party, both domestic and international. Those of you who are skilled enough to understand reality, understand the reality. And those of you who are not at all knowledgeable about what's going on don't want to believe what I'm saying to you. And unfortunately, it's your loss. But I've lived through a lot of it, by the way, as I've just said to you. And if you heard it, great. I've lived through Poem. I don't know the year it was done, but that came from a radio program I did years ago. It's a lot that I've seen in my lifetime. Remember, I was born before the first atomic bomb was used in warfare. Now, I want to back down for a moment, to back up. See the hourglass I keep behind me? I've always been cognizant of time and the passage of time. And of course, I've known it since I'm a child, how precious time really is. And as I've gotten older, of course, the sands are more down here, I guess, than they are up there. But it's true for all of us. This is not a woe and me show. This is a show, period, about one man's view of the world as he's moving through the planet, time and the planet. Time is real. We're real as we walk through it. And we see things going on. And unless you know history, you're going to repeat it in the worst possible ways. And what you don't know is that Harris is a naked communist. She always has been. And Waltz is clearly a communist plant. And that, I think, most people are aware of, anyone who's aware of these things. So I want to talk about time in another context for a moment. 1942, and I'm 82. Think of the numbers. Those of you who are into numerology, I'm 82, born in 42. Now, there's a numbers guy out there somewhere who can figure that out quickly. 82, born in 42. So I'm trying to show you the plastic reality of history and time in all of our lives. Let's go back to the year I was born together, 1942. So if there was an 80-year-old person in 1942, that person would have been born in around 1860, which is hard to believe, which means that person born when I was born would have been around at the time that Lincoln was president and America was fighting a civil war. That's a very long time in history. And I'm around for 80 years. That's, 4/5 of a century. So you want to dismiss me as someone who's irrelevant because I'm not young? Dismiss me at your own loss. Because there was a time, and there is a time, that people who've been around long enough to see things are looked to for what is going on and what might happen in the country. That's why there was a time in America that we looked up to our elders instead of spitting on them and casting them off as people who know nothing. But we have a generation raised on drugs and propaganda who don't even know their own time in history and their own place in history and have no way to understand the danger they are in. And that is my prelude or overture to this particular symphony. Beethoven would understand it. I hope you understand it. Living through dangerous times. And so I go back to a book that I wrote. This was my first big political bestseller. And this book was written when I had just come on the scene in radio, published in 2002. I'd been in radio since 94, Saving America from the Liberal Assault on Our Borders, Language, and Culture. There are many people who are so influenced by me, they don't even know they were influenced by me. So I'm going to read this for a reason. The back of this book had an ending which says, "Imagine Al Gore in charge." And I'm going to change Gore's contract against America in some part to Kamala'S 20-point plan to destroy America, because it's almost identical to Gore's contract against America. Now, these may not be in the order in which they present the danger, but they're certainly dangers. I would say the number one danger that Kamala and the War Party present to us is World War III. For some reason, the Democrats have become the party of war. Perhaps it's the money, it's the control, it's the insanity, or they don't know what the hell they're doing. War with Russia would end life as you know it. There used to be a time when there was a publication called Union of Concerned Atomic Scientists, and they used to have a clock, a countdown to Armageddon, and they'd show a 1 second to midnight. When any Republican was in power, we were 1 second to midnight with nuclear war. Where did the concerned atomic scientists go? Where's the clock? Biden has put us like a millisecond close to the end of life on Earth. Where are these scientists? Where did they all go? Well, that's an example. So number one is war with Russia, which has to be stopped. Affirmative action, or the Fairness for Dummies Act. Now, I wrote that in 2003. That's called DEI now. It was called affirmative action then, where anyone but a white male was hired. Reparations for non-slaves by non-slave holders. Hate crime laws aimed at straight white males. Racial profiling laws aimed at straight white police. 6, a United Nations tax or a world tax. 7, free prescription drugs, not only for the elderly, but for the immigrants. Illegal. 8, delegitimizing the Boy Scouts or the Fairness to Predators Act. 9, outlawing homeschooling or the Freedom from Learning Act. 10, arrest, ban, or rewrite the authentic Bible as a hate book. 11, mandatory application of Ritalin or any like drugs to any child with spunk or the Security for Children Act. 12, complete elimination of borders with Mexico or the Fairness to Latinos Act. Remember when this book was published, folks? The Savage Nation was a big hit in 2002. It was a #1 New York Times bestseller. No one had ever heard anything like this. Complete elimination of borders with Mexico or the Fairness to Latinos Act. 13, partial birth abortion or infanticide and the sale of baby body parts, or the Senior Citizen Life Extension Act. Jonathan Swift would understand the sarcasm. 14, increased license for Hollywood's violence and pornography, or the Freedom of Arts Act. 15, socialized medicine and a national health plan, or the Freedom from Bad Behavior Act. 16, the No Limits on Lawsuits Act. 17, mandatory suicide for 6 seniors, or the Saving Social Security Act. 18, the Fairness and Talk Radio Act, or the end of, I said talk radio, but it'll be the end of all freedom of speech if Kamala wins, all of it. 19, the end of the Electoral College and the Congressional Redistricting of America to ensure that never again will the Democrats be threatened, or the One Dunce, One Vote Act. 20, the complete seizing of all guns, or the Freedom from the Second Amendment Act. 21, the abolition of our existing Constitution, or the Freedom from Freedom Act. Jonathan Swift would get the joke, which is no joke, bloke. And here we are on the cusp of perhaps the greatest disaster in human history. First, they did a bait and switch. When they saw Biden was no longer able to function, we knew he was incompetent several years ago. I said to you many times that any medical student as near as 10 years ago would have known he had Parkinsonian dementia or some other like dementia, and he's not fit to serve. And they hid him as a hologram until he was destroyed by Trump during that great debate. And then they did a bait and switch, and they got rid of him, and they pushed her in, the most incompetent, unpopular figure in American political history. And here we are. Now, I'm not saying to you that I can do anything about this, but I am saying to you that I see what's going on, and it's my obligation to tell you I see what's going on. Now, every poll that's come out in the last few days, even the polls that are distorted, are showing that Trump is beating her, because after the little bump she got from the fake DNC show, suddenly Trump is rising in the polls. In every single poll in America, even the biased polls, are showing him winning. And so they're getting more desperate than ever. And what they're going to do is according to people I speak with, is they're going to have floods in polling places on the night of the election and do what they did last time. And they're going to steal the election again, is what I am hearing. I hope that they are wrong. I hope that there are enough people watching this. But you have to understand something about communists. They have a few mottos that go like this: Hasta la victoria siempre. That was Fidel Castro's motto, which was Hasta la victoria siempre, to the victory always, meaning by all means necessary. They don't care about cheating and lying. That's what they do. That is what they do. The Democrats are practicing the Communist Party USA policies, which is win by all means, by any means necessary. Steal, cheat, lie, it doesn't matter. So anything can happen. And I'm trying to bring history to life for you right now on this small broadcast before another pig fest holiday here in America called Labor Day weekend, where people have an excuse to not work as usual, use drugs or alcohol as usual, eat like a pig as usual, go on a bender as usual, and that's it. Look, I don't have time for cute in my life. I was raised by an immigrant father. Things were very tough every day of our lives, and we made the best of it. Frankly, that's why I'm driven the way I am. I was raised on neglect, anger, and hate. See, I was raised the old-fashioned way. Today, you raise your child with, oh, look at that deer. He smeared his feces on the wall. That's modern art. Well, what are you going to produce? A journalist? You might produce a lawyer. I mean, that's about all you can make out of a kid like that. That's if he doesn't wind up with a needle in his arm and an earring on his you-know-what. You got to raise your kids tough to raise your kids at all. I don't mean be mean and don't be hateful, but you have to raise them tough or they're not going to survive what's coming in this world. I dread to tell you what could happen in this nation under Walsh Harris. This is not the theater of the mind right now. This is not the theater of the mind at all. This is the theater of reality. And so I try to warn America, and many of you got the message. And I said to you, if you're tired of being attacked in school, whenever you celebrate the achievements of America, if you're weary of being trampled on whenever you speak in favor of morality, If as a Boy Scout you become a pariah while the perverts have become the victims, you've come to the right place. Those are the words, the candid words of myself, Michael Savage, the son of immigrants, whose love for America and trenchant insights into the leftist propaganda that threatens our way of life have made me a figure in the media that has been a long time in coming. And I may speak in a muscular, electrifying style that is no longer fashionable, but I try to warn you even then that our country is losing its identity, becoming a victim of political correctness, which is what we called it then, unmonitored immigration, which I said then, and socialistic ideals, which I said then. Now, you've heard all of this now, but you didn't know who started the ball rolling. It was me. I was the one who awakened America. I wrote then, when it comes to our culture, we're being told by liberals to let the illegal invaders, as well as the legal newcomers, redefine and reshape our culture into their image. And I said, wake up, America. Our borders, language, and culture are being threatened, and it's up to us as principled patriotic citizens to defend and protect the freedoms we cherish. If the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, declares Savage, then only a more savage nation will enjoy these liberties. And boy, was I right. And unfortunately, it's more true today than it was even then. Now, I don't want to spend this time with you reading from The Savage Nation, Saving America from the Liberal Assault on Our Borders, Language, and Culture, because you can read it for yourself in many other forms. But I'm going to read you some of the chapter headings from this prescient book. Diversity is perversity. I saw what was coming. I knew that the perverts were using the word diversity to push perversity. I saw it then. America, from the melting pot to the chamber pot. Was I right or wrong? Haven't we gone from the melting pot, where we all became Americans, to the chamber pot? It's like a latrine out there. Rats versus eagles. Yeah, rats versus eagles. Christophobia in praise of Christianity. Do you know that there's more Christophobia in America today than there ever has been? 6, trickle-down immorality. 7, immigrants and epidemics. Did you know that we have new diseases and new epidemics because of the unfettered, unbridled flood of illegal aliens that have flowed over the border under Harris Biden? Dancing on the cultural abyss. Red diaper doper babies rule. And then I went into crimes of the Democrats, which I do not have to repeat to you now. Crimes of the Democrats, which I do not have to repeat to you now. I was reading a history magazine about World War II and fighting Hitler. One of my hobbies is reading history magazines or history books. And I was reading about the resistance against Hitler when Hitler had conquered Europe, or conquered almost all of Europe. And something jumped out at me today. It says resistance through graffiti. And I want to just shut off this lower screen for a moment. It's blinding me a little bit, and turn this up a bit so I get a little more. In Western Europe, where Germany abstained from the worst brutality, in Western Europe, where Germany abstained from the worst brutalities, resistance started small with distribution of illegal newspapers and anti-Nazi graffiti. In many ways, I'm the underground newspaper. You understand what I'm saying to you? I am part of the underground resistance in America today. Underground resistance in America today exists on YouTube and some smaller outlets, perhaps Rumble and things like that. We are the resistance in this country right now. Small resistance groups gradually emerged, all from different backgrounds. Here's the part that struck me. France had right-wing resistance groups and leftist, as well as Catholic, communist, and militarist. Did you hear that? In other words, when the Nazis conquered France, resistance groups rose from the right, from the left, from Catholics, from communists, and military wings. Okay? Now, much of what I'm saying to you sounds like it's in vain today because we're a fat, happy nation. People have become fat and happy, basically, with a welfare state. And most of America doesn't work. 50% of Americans don't work. They live off the labor of people like me and you. We are the ones providing the taxes for the vermin, for the bums. We are the ones providing the food for the garbage flowing over the border. The filth and the garbage that was brought in by Biden simply to redistrict America and to destroy any semblance of a nation. I'm paying for these filthy bums in this country. And most of them don't work. Don't you dare tell me they come here to work. These filthy millions are not coming here to work. They come here to sap off the system, to suck us dry. They're not like your great-grandfather or your great-grandmother who labored the day they got here. There's a book of the Bible that people have been texting me that we should be talking about called Daniel's Prophecy, the book of Daniel, given to me by the Seventh-day Adventists, I believe. I don't remember when I got this book. I've read it many times. You can see there's a few little Post-its in there. The greatest invention next to the wheel is the Post-it. And I guess they want me to see what's coming through the Daniel's Prophecy. Babylonia, politically divided world in the time of the end. I know that. Babylonia from 607 BCE, Medo-Persia from 539 before the Christian era, Greece ruled the world from 338 before the Christian era, Rome ruled the world from 30 BCE, Anglo-American world power from 1763, okay, and then the political divided world in the time of the end. The political divided world in the time of the end. So what the people who are believing in Daniel's book are trying to tell me is that we are really in the end times. I mean, it's chilling for me to say it, and I don't know how much of biblical prophecy to believe or not to believe. I am not a biblical absolutist, so I'm not going to sit here and say the world is coming to an end. But I will say that Kamala Harris represents the end of the end times in that she's clearly incompetent. She never was qualified for the position. She has been affiliated with communist organizations since she began from the beginning. And the vermin in the media like Anderson Cooper either are too stupid or under the control of those controllers who want her in power to not even understand the danger she puts him in. The danger she puts him. The book of Daniel closes with one of the most beautiful promises God has ever made to a human. Jehovah's angel told Daniel, "You will stand up for your lot at the end of the days." And what did the angel mean? Well, since the rest he had just referred to was death, the promise that Daniel would stand up at some later time could mean only one thing: resurrection. In fact, some scholars have asserted that Daniel chapter 12 contains the first explicit reference to resurrection to be found in the Hebrew Scriptures. In this, though, they are wrong. Daniel was very familiar with the resurrection hope. Now, the idea of the resurrection is very important for us listening to this small broadcast today. We need a resurrection in America. We need a resurrection of America. We need America to understand it's almost dead. In order for it to have a resurrection, you must understand you've almost killed your nation. Understand that? Do you get what I'm saying? How can you have a resurrection unless you realize that you're dead? Of a principle, of an idea like America. This nation is almost dead. Our borders were destroyed by Joe Biden, the most evil president in American history, and his cohort, Harris. Our language has been turned into a Tower of Babel. How can you have a nation that permits voting in 16 or 20 languages? And that started here in San Francisco, which is why the city died and then the state died, because the corrupt Democrat machine under these people, the very same people are putting her before you now. The way they gained control over the taxpayers and the law abiding in this state was by making the ballot meaningless. They didn't have to steal it. They just had illegal aliens vote by putting the ballot into 16 languages. Language, borders, language, and culture. What is our culture today? Here is a country that was founded on a firm culture. What was the culture? The U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Bible. That's right. These are the fundaments of our culture. And what are the fundaments of our culture today? Drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Pornography rules. That is a nation that needs to have a resurrection, don't you think? A resurrection. We need a leader to lead the resurrection. At this time, it's Donald Trump. Now, I don't want to go into Donald Trump right now as the savior of Western man, but in fact, that is what he has to do right now. It's him or no one else. There's no one else to do it. It's either him or nobody. It's that simple. Is he the ideal man to do it? No. Is he the perfect man to do it? No. But he's the only man to do it right now. He's the only man to do it right now. I know all of his flaws. You know all of his flaws. But I've never seen a man carry the sword. So I should say forcefully and without relentlessly as this man. I don't know how he does it. I really don't know where he gets the energy. Don't you wake up some days and you don't want to go on in your work, or you don't want to go on in your life the way you've been going on? Don't you just want to stay home and not do anything? Don't you think he has those days? How could he do this every day? How in the world can he get up every day and warn us about who she really is, which he did today? I heard it part of his speech in Michigan. And I was surprised to hear that he's picking up a lot of the fundamental ideas that I know to be true, that she is a communist. She represents communist philosophy. Maybe everyone's coming to realize that her background is clear for those who want to see it. I mean, I found a thing today that was actually shocking. Her ties to her communist father are very deep. He's been a Marxist professor of economics forever. She was raised in a communist household, as was Barack Obama, by the way. So she would like to rule by fiat. She will be like Evita Peron if she wins. You will not have any freedom left in this country. You will be wiped out. You know, the other day I did a program on health, and I showed you a book that I had written in 1982 on children's health, because I was very happy that RFK Jr. came along and was talking about how foods and agricultural policies, poisons in our foods, were poisoning America. I thought it was great. And then I did a little show where I said, we don't really have a, I want to get the exact words. I think it's right here. I want to get it right. We don't have a healthcare system in America. We have a disease management system. A disease management system. I've been preaching this since the 1970s, by the way, when my first children's health book came out in 1976 called Bugs in the Peanut Butter. So I've been on the forefront as a social worker in some ways my entire life. And my politics was an extension of my work in the field of nutrition and health. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is the same. It's a continuum. It's not, I didn't go from that to this. It was a continuation, because ultimately it's politics that will control our health as it is right now. So what do I mean by that? And this is a very important part of this particular little broadcast. If Kamala and these evildoers win, you can expect things to happen that you would never expect to happen under any party in this country. Do you know that they want to outlaw vitamins in this country in order to make sure that only pharmaceutical drugs prevail? You say it can't happen here. Now, many of you are, in your minds, liberals and don't understand the history of your own country. Do you know that in the 1950s, herbal medicine was illegal? Did you know that you could be arrested if you were selling vitamins in America in the 1950s? I didn't know that until the 70s, when I was in the health food business, meaning the health book business. And I learned from some older people who were afraid that in the 50s, pharmacists were arrested if they sold herbal drugs. They were only allowed to sell toxic pharmaceutical medicines, some of which are very helpful, but some are very toxic. And those pharmacists from the old days who were selling herbs were actually raided by the FDA and put in prison, put in jail. I remember there was an old pharmacist in San Francisco, I forget his name, and I was having trouble sleeping. This was in the 80s, I think, if I can remember correctly. And someone told me to go see this guy in his pharmacy on Ellis Street. And he was a little old Jewish guy. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. I wasn't in radio, and I was, nobody at the time that anybody would recognize. Just a customer walks in. And it was a little old pharmacy, and he was known to sell herbs in the back of the pharmacy. It was a regular pharmacy. I forget his name. Let's call him Irv. Let's say Irv. So I come in, And I come in and I say, hello, sir. Let's say his name is Horowitz. I don't know what his name was. I say, sir, I'm looking to buy some passion flower herb. And he looked at me with total suspicion. He didn't know if I was from the government. And he says, I have no passion flower herb. Where did you hear that? I don't sell such a thing. I said, people told me you have herbs in the back that you sell. No, they're wrong. Get out of my store. Well, we got to talk. He was afraid I was from the government, and I was there to bust him and arrest him for selling herbal medicine. If you think that can't happen under Kamala, you're mistaken. The Democrats have recently tried to introduce bills to ban the sale of certain vitamins and to tell you that herbs are no good for you and to tell you only Big Pharma knows what's good for you. So I'm telling you that those of you who are in the health freedom business should understand which side you better vote on. You vote for a Democrat, you're voting your own demise. The Republicans actually stand for health freedom. The Democrats stand for that kind of regressive, repressive policy that I'm trying to tell you about that was existent in America in the 1950s. Well, that's about it for today. There's a lot more that can be said, a lot more that should be said, a lot more that will be said. And I will come back, hopefully, over the next few days here on my YouTube and X platforms with more. I'm probably going to do a show in the next few days about the origins of Labor Day, because many of you don't know that Labor Day is basically a socialist a holiday. I've tried to tell you that, but it's something you need to know. It's from the labor movement. Today, I've talked about Kamala'S 20-point plan to subjugate America. I hope you will share that with enough people to change the dialogue in your own household before it's too late. Okay? This is Michael Savage. Again, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, I appreciate your loyal support. And I'll ask you to hit the like button for whatever that matters, and also to listen to the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button. And if you don't like what you've heard, well, don't listen. Remember, after my shows are over, the staff will go through the comments. And if you're a complete asshole, you'll be banned for life from my YouTube channel and from my X platform. No one will ever hear from you again. You'll go back to masturbating in your mother's basement. Have a nice day. Enjoy everything you can while you still can. Remember which side freedom lies and on which side repression lies. It's the exact opposite of what they're telling you. Harris and Waltz are communists who stand for repression. Trump, as flawed as he is, and the Republicans stand for freedom. That's all you got to remember. Nothing else matters. That's it. Goodbye, and have a good day. End stream.